Hi all. I don't see anyone else has joined, so let's wait. Hi all. We'll just wait for 2 minutes and then we'll give it a start.
Hello. Hi, Bob.
Hello.
Mommy, am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Give me 1 minute and then we'll start.
Sure, Bob. No problem.
Okay. Let's give it a start. I hope you can see my screen, right? You can see the IPython notebook which I have. So let me just make some space. And here I am going to explain a few things. So until last session, what we have done is that we have started looking into ANOVA, and we looked into a very basic concept that why we needed ANOVA at the first place. So uh, just to set the background, because it was last weekend, so just a quick revise. So in the previous cases like Z-test, T-test, and P-test, and the kind of distributions that we have seen, we have only looked into hypothesis tests where we have checked in two samples. Okay, now these two samples can come from one independent variable, they can come from two independent variable, but no more than that. And for some cases, we have also considered that we can take the population itself, right? Because if my population is so small that sampling makes no sense, then I take the entire population to do the analysis itself, right? So this is what we have seen until the last stage. Just not to have any confusion, so the tests that we have done already, like Z test and normal C test and T test, is where we have seen cases that the samples that we have taken are coming from the same parent population. So example given, if you look at this workbook which we have here, whatever tests we have done is basis the data that we have taken from, let's say, the iris data set. Okay, so we have taken things from the iris data set or this tips data that we had loaded into. So basis this, we took a population and then a sample or a set of columns from that sample, which all entirely belong to the same population itself. So this is kind of a confusion that happens at many stages as to from where these samples are going to come. Are they going to come from, let's say, different populations or the same ones? But whatever we have seen as of now is where we have taken samples or features or columns that belongs to the same parent population. But now the question that we have in our hand is that can we do hypothesis tests uh, to check if there are, or if we have questions involving samples of more than two features. So example given the last in the last session, the example that I was taking is if I am a manufacturer of certain car parts or anything of that sort, and I have three factories, we can understand that in this kind of a lockdown situation, it is very difficult for me to maintain profits as well as give salary to employees and so on, because my sales are really down, right? So I may not be in a financial position to run all the three factories. So I would like to know if there is one factory out of, let's say, I have three factories A, B, and C, and my blind assumption is that, or the general assumption that anyone will have, which forms the null hypothesis, is that the mean production or average production of each and every factory is roughly the same. So mu of A, let's say mu of A, mu of B, and mu of C, that represents the three factories that I have. And all of these mu's are actually equal to each other. So what I mean by that is, if I take a pen, then I can simply write that, let's say mu of A is the mean production for factory A, which is exactly equal to mu of B being the production for factory B, and it is exactly equal to mu of C, which is the production of factory C. Now, this is the de facto standard. Okay, so this is the standard null hypothesis. So this is null hypothesis H of 0 that will always exist when it comes to the ANOVA related use cases. So if you see any such kind of situation, any such situations where your null hypothesis comes out to be something like this, then it is quite clear that we have a problem related to ANOVA. Okay. Now, give me 1 minute. Now, if I would like to solve this problem, there is one thing which we looked into at the last class as well. So what we tried to do is that, let's say, if I have this kind of a hypothesis, then why can't I take groups? Okay, I can take groups. So I can try to do a test for this. I can try to do a test for this, and then I can try to compare, or maybe I can also try to do the third test, which will be something like this. So if you are able to understand what is going on, we are trying to do a test for mu of A and mu of B. This can be a t-test, two sample t-test, then another two sample t-test for mu of B and C, then a third t-sample t-test for mu of A and mu of C. But if we do that, we come to know that for each and every case, our expected confidence interval, which is almost usually not provided to us by the business question, is equal to 0.95. But to collaborate them, we have to join these three. The findings of these three has to be joined. If I join these three, then I need to multiply the confidence interval with each other, because that's the only way I can combine the power of these three tests. So if I do that, my cumulative power comes out to be less than 95%, which comes out to be 85.7%, which means 0.857 becomes my new confidence interval if I do this kind of breakup and test. Okay, so that's where a problem is. So that's where ANOVA is going to come into picture, and that's where we are going to look into a concept known as F value. So I believe in the last class we have talked into two concepts. So let's just quickly review what those two concepts were. Let me just clear the drawings. So there is a concept of, let me just take another pen. So there is a concept of variance between groups, and there is a concept of variance within groups, right? So variance between groups is that I have groups. Okay, I have groups of data here, because let's say I have three factories and I have data for those three factories. So I have A, B, and C. So there will be an overall variance of this data. Let's say that overall variance is VO. How is each and every variance differing with each other with opposed to, or in respect to the overall variance of the data set? So that's what is the variance between groups. Now, variance between groups can be mathematically represented as sum of squared groups, okay, divided by the degrees of freedom of that group. Okay, we are going to decipher the mathematical formula as to how we are going to calculate SSG and DFG. We are going to take an example and then we can find out. And then we have this variance within the group, which is like looking inside each and every group and trying to find out what is the variance within this. Right now, this is like finding the variance within each and every sample, and we already know that when we try to find variance or standard deviation within a sample, it's no longer called standard deviation; it's called standard error. Right. So that's why the calculation here will be called as sum of standard errors, which will be divided by the degree of freedom for the errors. Okay. Now we are going to calculate this, but just to keep the context in mind, to do the ANOVA calculation, we have come across a new kind of a distribution, which is an F distribution, which looks like this. So an F distribution is going to look like this. It's going to take a peak and then it's going to take a slant like this. And somewhere here, we are going to have the confidence interval where here I have the F critical value. So my purpose will be to find the value of F basis the variance within groups or variance between groups divided by variance within groups. Okay, so this will be the formula basis which I'm going to calculate the F value that is relevant to my question here. So to my setup, I have three samples A, B, and C, and or three random variables A, B, and C for which I have samples, and I will be calculating VBG and VWG, and then I'm going to simply do a division, find out their value. So if that F value falls within this critical zone, then I clearly say that I can reject the null hypothesis. So the rest of the operations that I do is the same as what I have done earlier. Okay, there is no difference. Then from this F value, there is a way to calculate the P value as well, and we already know, right, basis the previous tests that we have done, what we need to do with the P value, right? If I just go above, if you see what we have done earlier, we have already shown that if P value is less than or equal to alpha, we reject the null hypothesis. But if we are going to find the F value, that will be similar to this Chi statistic that we found out over here. It must be more than the critical value because it stays on this side of the things, right? So F value has to be staying on this side of the things, right? I hope you can see it, right? So it will be something like this. So if the critical zone is this, and I have a critical F value here, and I have FV which is lying over here, then I can simply reject the null hypothesis. Or I can find the P value. If P value is less than or equal to alpha, then I can also reject the null hypothesis, right? So that's what is happening. So that's exactly what we are going to do by taking an example. Okay, I hope until this point in time everything is fine. So let me just take an example. I think it will be good if I do it in Excel. Okay, give me 1 minute. Let's start with Excel and then we will come over to Python, because in Python as well as in Excel, we already have the functions to do this. Okay, there is no issue with that, but let's just do it in Python as well. Why not do it in Python? Let's not confuse things. We should not be confusing things. Fine. Okay, let's do the test, but before we do the test, I would just like to clarify something. Is the kind of test that we are going to do, or what is known as uh, the types of the ANOVA tests. Okay, so the types of ANOVA tests that we do is or can be categorized into two types. Okay, so one is known as a one-way or a one-factor ANOVA test, and the other one is known as a two-factor ANOVA case. Okay, now what is the difference here? So if we are going to consider only one independent variable, okay, let's say I'm considered only about one independent variable and I have three samples out of it. Okay, so my variable here in this question that I asked to myself some time back is what is my, let's say, production. Now, how do I quantify the production that I'm doing? It is as simple as how many items I'm actually producing from my factory. Simple, right? So, number of items which are getting produced from the factory. Then I'm taking samples from three different factories. So my KPI is the same. My independent variable is the same for each and every factory, right? So if I had 10 factories, my independent variable remains the same. The variable being the number of items that I have actually produced from each of the factories. And then I've taken three samples and I've done a test. In this case, that will be the test to find out the F value, otherwise known as the ANOVA test. Okay. In this case, that's called a one factor on a one variable or a one way ANOVA test. But if we would like to analyze two independent variables, right? If we would like to analyze two independent variables, let's say in this calculation, I would also like to include what's going to be the wholesale price of the items that I have actually produced on any specific day, or as a group, or as an average for that period, maybe just to or uh, just to simplify things. I mean, we will only take, let's say, the amount or the average price that a wholesaler is going to pay me, right, of the items that I've actually produced. So if I take that variable as well, or if I'm going to consider the kind of sales that I'm going to make as well, then now I have two independent variables. In that case, my ANOVA is called a two-way ANOVA, right? Now, two-way ANOVA obviously is a bit complicated as compared to a single-way ANOVA, as you may have already understood, because uh, two-way ANOVA is going to change the calculations or the way in which we do the calculations. Okay, now let's just go through one quick example. Okay, and then we'll see how the thing goes. But I would like to clarify that we already have the formulas, or let's say all the functions which are actually available in both Excel as well as into Pandas. So let's just start with let's say Python, and then we are going to obviously go into Excel as well, because I believe that will be interesting or important for all of us. Okay, so now uh, let's pose a question. Okay, so let's give us a question here, and then basis that question we are going to do ANOVA both. And then I will, maybe when I do that in Excel, right, I'll again have to open this iris set and so on. So I can go back to Excel and I can do that there, right? Or I can take another example into Excel. So let's say in this case, my question is, let's say there are three different species, right, of iris flower in the data set which we have, right? So in the data or the research that we have done, we have seen there are three sets of iris flowers. Okay, basis the petal width. Okay, for example, so I'll just say for example, are there any fundamental differences between each of the species or groups? Okay, now whenever you are asked a question like this, first of all, try to understand whether it is really going to be an ANOVA problem or not. Okay, how do we understand that it is an ANOVA problem? Clearly, we have, or we need to take samples from more than two areas, you can say, right? How did you find out that? Because we have clearly defined in the question over here. We have clearly defined in the question over here, we have three species that belongs to a single independent variable, right? And the variable that we are going to consider to do analysis is one, and that is going to be petal width. I never said that basis petal width as well as the sepal width, we are going to find out the association or the differences between the species, right? I said there is only one variable I'm going to use, which is going to be my petal width. Okay, so I have one independent variable, and that one independent variable will be cross-checked against a target, or it is going to be cross-checked against, I would like to call this a KPI. So this is a key performance indicator basis which I'm going to compare them, and I'm going to find the differences or the similarities. There may well be similarity. So this is clearly a one-way ANOVA problem, right? So this is clearly a one-way ANOVA problem. This is what we are trying to find. Okay, so looking at the question itself, we can figure out whether it is an ANOVA problem, and if yes, what kind of an ANOVA problem it is, whether it is a one-way or a two-way ANOVA. So you have to find that out, because basis that the inputs to the functions that you use, okay, please note this, the inputs to the functions that you use in Excel and Python is going to change. The same thing does not or may not happen with other statistical softwares. Example given in R, when I was trying to learn the software or the concepts of, let's say, the ANOVA problems, I've even used R programming language to do ANOVA, but in R there is only one function, and that function is as simple as the ANOVA function, ANOVA, and that is a function like that. You pass the data, it gives you the output. That's it. You don't need to explicitly always say, although you have the options. Okay, you have the options to customize, but you don't need to do that, right? You just have to pass the data, it will do the rest. But that's not going to be the case when it comes to Excel or when it comes to Python. In Python or in Excel, you have to be specific what you want to do. Okay, then again the complexities will increase. Okay, please don't be worried about this. We are going to take as much as examples we can to look into those things. There will be complexities in case of two-way ANOVA as well, because there comes a concept of replication factor. Okay, but that we will look at a later stage. As of now, from the question, I have understood there is one single KPI from where I am going to draw 3 samples, because I can draw 3 samples basis the question, and basis this feature, this independent variable, I'm going to find out the similarity or the differences. Okay, clearly this is a one-way ANOVA problem. Let me clear the drawings and let me get back to coding. So first of all, I need to prepare the data. Okay, this is a very important work. I don't think in any case data will be given prepared for you. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I already have the iris data set, right? Let me just quickly cross check. Yeah. So here I have species in this format 0, 1, and 2. If you remember, we have already converted the text into numbers. Okay. Now, keeping that in mind, let's create a data frame, and I will also tell you why I'm creating a data frame. Okay, so don't worry. Maybe what I can do, just for this test, why not I pd dot read CSV. This will make my life easier actually. If you would like to skip this step, you can do that, no problem. But I'm just making my life easier by re-importing the data with the same name. Okay, so that means now I have my original data back with the species names, and I will tell you why I have done that. So I am re-importing data for performing one way or one factor ANOVA. Okay, for the given question. Okay, now what I'm going to do is that, okay, I think there is a question from Sarang. Go ahead, Sarang.
Bhumik, I have a small generic question.
Yes,
So, based on the question, so we have three different species, right, in the iris
yes,
dataset.
yes,
So, for ANOVA, we are only considering one independent variable like petal width
yes,
for entire
entire data.
iris data.
Yes,
And based on that, are there any fundamental differences between each of the species group? So
correct.
we'll just consider that variable only, or will we take some other also
If if
other things
you
with it?
if your question says that you need to find out the differences basis, let's say petal width and petal length, then now you have two independents, right? So now you have two feature variables or two independent variables. Then you can no longer do one way ANOVA testing. You have to do two way ANOVA. Why? Because you have more than one independent variable. Now you have to take how many samples? You see, if you are only considering, let's say, petal width, then you need to take only 3 samples. One sample will consist of one species of flower and so on. So because you have 3 species of flower, you need 3 samples for the petal width. So basis the KPI, which is the species of the iris flower, you will be creating 3 samples here. So you can call those 3 species or 3 samples as 3 groups. So if I have more than 2 samples for one independent variable belonging to the same population of data, then I need to, or I can perform one way ANOVA or F distribution test to find out the similarities or the dissimilarities, right? So that's what we are doing. But if your question is going to change, let's say if you are going to consider more variables, then you will have to make change in the test. Maybe after two factor ANOVA, I don't think, basis my knowledge in this field, I don't think there is any 3 factor or 4 factor ANOVA in place. So only 1 and 2 factor is really possible, right? In which case we can go up to 2 independent variables as well, and then we'll see if there is any other, let's say, a statistical test to look into further independent variables, right?
Yeah, so based on one independent variable, let's say only width.
Hmm.
So we have just the width of the entire data set. So
Right.
what is the variant between individual widths? Based on that, we'll be classifying it into the species, right? Is
Yes.
this the aim?
Yes. Yes, but we won't be doing any classification here. Maybe we won't be doing that exercise right now. We will only be finding out the patterns basis our null hypothesis. And what is our null
Okay,
hypothesis when
okay,
it comes
only
to the
patterns.
ANOVA? Because we are only concentrating on the hypothesis testing here, right? We have not really reached into a question that we are not asking kind of questions that basis the petal width. Let's try to classify the flower into 3 species or 1 out of 3 species. That is not the question. The question we have is we are trying to test a hypothesis, and our null hypothesis is as simple as the mean of the petal width for setosa flower is the same as that of the versicolor flower is the same as that of the virginica flower. Is that right or not? Is what we are trying to figure out. Okay, so our alternate hypothesis is at least
Okay, boss.
one mean is actually different from each other. So that will help us understand if at a later stage this petal width variable is really going to be conclusive in doing any modeling. So if tomorrow we are going to solve your question that whether we are going to use petal width to classify a flower, is that going to be a right choice or no? Right. So that's what we are trying to find out here. Okay, let's try to continue. So what we are going to do is I'm simply going to create a new data frame. Create a new data frame. Okay, I'm calling the subset of iris, which has the petal. Which one did we select? The petal width, right? Petal width and the species of the flower. Okay, we do this because because of our question itself. Okay, we are only concentrating ourselves to this variable only. That's why we are only limiting ourselves to this. So why not we select that? So iris, and I'm going to select the variable name, which is PTL width, petal width, and species. I hope this is going to result. Yes, that's correct. So iris underscore new. Okay, so why not look into the shape? Sorry. Okay, so I have 150 rows and I have 2 columns, petal width and species, for this new iris underscore new thing that I have just created. Okay, now what I'm going to find out is, first of all, I have to find out the groups or the samples that I need to consider. So the samples has to be divided into more than 2 groups. Until 2 groups, we have already used what? T-test, right? We can do two-way T-tests. So we have 2 sample T-tests that we have already done. As of now, we have 3 groups. So first of all, let us try to find out the 3 groups. So we firstly find the 3 groups. This is a very, very novice thing to do because we already know what those groups are going to be. Okay, maybe we can clearly write those groups directly. So we can write the groups as simple as this. Okay, so it will be Virginica, and then the second one was versicolor, and the first one was what? Setosa, right? So Setosa, versicolor, Virginica. These are the 3 groups which we have. Alternative way will be something like this. I'll just show you a quick way that is available with, let's say, Panda. So we can do pd dot unique. Okay, unique is a function, and then we simply take the iris new data frame and give the name of the column. Okay, so in both the cases the answer is going to be the same. So irrespective of what methods you use, the answer is going to be the same, right? The answer is simply going to be the same. Both of them are same. Yeah, there is no difference. There is no difference between the first one and the second one. So the only thing I can do is that I can take this. Okay, I can take the values from there, and then it will have a good kind of a grouping. Both of them are actually lists, or I can represent them as arrays as well, so no problem. Now I have created this group. Let me just see the type of this. Okay, so I have the numpy nd array. What about this one? I believe the first one was a list, right? Okay, So basically I'll have to hide this as well. Yeah, this was a list, so why not take the array? I mean, it is really not going to make any difference, but let's just take the standard way of doing things. So I am taking the data frame, and then I'm taking the column, and then I'm taking the values function here, and then I am simply putting it into PD unique function, and then I am getting the groups. Okay, so this is what I'm actually getting. Now I'll use this to perform the rest of the analysis. Okay, what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to quickly create a dictionary, and that dictionary will be essential for me to come up with the samples. So what that dictionary is going to contain is create the create a Python dictionary. Okay, you will understand, okay, very soon as to why we created a Python, let's say, dictionary, because I want to represent the data something like this. Okay, if I just draw, it will be something like this, just like we did it earlier, right? So I have A, I have B, and I have C. So these becomes the keys of the dictionary, A, B, and C, and then the values becomes the values. Right, so the values of the petal width is going to be the value. This is a very useful representation, because only by searching by the key I can get any value I want, like a list. So this is represented as a list or an array of elements, and this is the key. So this will give me very quick mathematical operations, right? I could have also represented this as a data frame, but that's not going to be efficient in my case. So that is why I'm going to create a Python dictionary with groups and the samples. Okay, so to do that, let's try to revise what we have already learned into the kind of things that we have done earlier, right? So let's say I'm going to call this D data. Okay, just a name, just a D data name that I'm going to give. And what I'm going to do is that let me use one liner function. Okay, I want to create a dictionary. Okay, a dictionary which is going to have groups and the uh, petal width, right? So I am going to have the groups, right, and a petal width. The petal width comes from where? Iris new petal width column, where I have the species iris underscore new dot species is equal to each of the group. So I have to write over here group. So this becomes my key, and this becomes my value. Okay, this entire thing becomes my value. So this is the key and value, where for group in groups, right? So for each and every item in groups, I want a key value representation of the group name as well as the petal width of that specific group. Okay, this is exactly what I'm trying to do over here. Let's see if this works. What happened? D underscore data. If I do a print, you can clearly see what it is doing. I have a key which is set as a flower, and then I have the petal widths for that flower. Okay, then I have the versicolor flower, and then I have the petal widths for that flower. And finally, I have the Virginica flower, and I have the petal widths for that flower. Okay, so this is how it looks like. So I've simply created a dictionary, okay, with the values. So I'll just mark this as values. Okay, so this is the entire thing. You may want to hide that as well just to save space. Okay, now what we are going to do is that now that we have got the data in that group kind of a table kind of a format, okay, simply put, we call the predefined function available in Python. Okay, so don't worry that we are using a predefined function and we will simply pass some values and we will get the output without understanding what is really happening here. In the last session, we have briefly discussed sum of square of groups and sum of square of errors, but we are going to do that by hand once as well using Excel. So don't worry, okay? If we don't have time as of today. Maybe we can do that, let's say tomorrow as well, but it is really this simple in Python and Excel that we simply call a function and we get two things. Okay, we get the f value which we need and we get the p value, right? That's all we are going to really get out of the function call that we are going to make. It's really that simple in any statistical tool. Okay, but we need to understand the math behind this. That's specifically what we are going to do. Okay, if we have time now, then we are going to do that, or otherwise in the next session we will do. But to understand what is happening here, as we have already explained, we need the values to fit into that f distribution question here, right? So to do that, I need the f value, which is my first variable, and the second one is the p variable. Okay, I'm putting an equal to sign, and then I'm going to make a call to some function here. Okay, this function is going to return me two values, the f value and the p value. I'm simply going to make the comparison, right? I'm simply going to make the comparison of the p value because p value is easier to understand, right? Now, what about the f value? Okay, what about the f value? I can actually choose to omit this, and I can call this a non-named variable into Python, just like we have done earlier. Underscore can be used to represent an unnamed variable. I really do not need this here because I can simply use the p-value and find out whether the p-value is less than. If it is less than alpha, I reject the null hypothesis. If it is greater than alpha, I have to accept the null hypothesis, right? So, but then why did we talk about the f value at the first place? Or even during the manual calculations, we will be talking about the f value because there is a concept of f table. Okay, so if there is a concept of f table in statistics, okay, so you can find this out. There is a f table PDF which is already available on the internet. I'll also share that with you. Okay, so don't worry. There is an f table which is already available, and here we pass the degrees of freedom. As you can see on the columns, on the headers, we have degrees of freedom. On the rows also we have the degrees of freedom. A combination of these two degrees of freedom is going to tell you the f critical value. Okay, the f critical value for an f distribution which looks like this, where I'm going to pass the degrees of freedom df1 and df2. What is df1 and df2? This is going to be for the f, the rows represent denominator degrees of freedom of the columns, and the columns represent numerator degrees of freedom. Okay, so what this means that I am going to have more than two samples, but these two actually refer to the DFG and DFE. So it is the degree of freedom for the groups and degree of freedom for the errors, which will be the inputs to this table. So let's say degree of freedom for groups is 5 and degree of freedom for errors is 6. Then obviously my F critical value comes out to be 3.10751. I hope you can see this table, right? So I'm just taking an intersection of DF1, which is actually the degree of freedom of groups, and then df2, which is the degree of freedom of errors, right? So that was the formula for f. If you remember, on the numerator we have ssg divided by dfg, in the numerator we have sse divided by dfe, and then we find this value over here, compare the f value. That's it. Okay, but just to save time or just to reduce the complexity, we will simply call this function here, and let's see how that function is going to be. So it is just f is what we are trying to find, but we are doing a one-way ANOVA. So this is the name of the function, f underscore one way, right? This is exactly what we are going to pass. Now, in this case, we have to pass the groups. I have how many groups? 3 groups. Okay, so d data, in this let's say dictionary, I have 3 groups divided by 3 species, so identified by 3 species. So let me just create this thing first, and then I can simply write the name of the species and my job will be done, right? So I have 3 species. First of all, I have Setosa. Okay, then I have versicolor, and lastly I have Virginica. Okay, I hope you can understand now why I retook the data, right? Because if I had entered 0, 1, and 2 over here, sometimes it creates a confusion. So that's why, to clarify the code or to make it really look easy, we have converted the data back into that string format, and now you can simply enter the values and run this cell. Let me check the p-value. The p-value is something like this. It is 4.3769 something something something. At the end, it is e minus 85. It means it is very, very slow. Okay, it is very, very low. So let me just try to go up. Okay, let me just try to go up and do a copy paste. I'm simply going to do a copy paste. I don't want to write this code because this is something which we have already done earlier, right? So why not test the validity of our hypothesis? And I simply say this, okay? Test the validity. So there is a spelling mistake here, and okay, P, okay? The sample mean of petal width for each species of flower is different, okay? And then I copy this and I paste it over here. Is same. I simply print this, reject the null hypothesis. Sample mean of petal width for each species of flower is actually different. Okay, they are not the same. Okay, I don't think we have time now. Let's make a stop here, and then we are going to look into this in the next class. We will use Excel first, then we are going to use hand coded math. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Good night.